return to the Valley of the Sun, a Penn State football special.
Over 2,000 miles separates Happy Valley from the Valley of the Sun outside Phoenix, Arizona, the site of Saturday's Fiesta Bowl between number 9 Penn State and the 11th ranked Washington Huskies. A great live shot there at the great landscape out here in the desert, less than 24 hours from Saturday's showdown at University of Phoenix Stadium here in Glendale. Welcome into our Penn State Bowl special. I'm Jordan Canigliaro.
And I'm Carrie Osap.
And Carrie, Arizona has been like a home away from home for Penn State over the years.
And it's actually been a little home away from home for me. As you know, I grew up in this area, and we know that the Penn State team has been enjoying this desert and sunshine.
That's right. Carrie knows the lay of the land this week. We know no one travels quite like Penn State fans. They're already out in full force. A little while ago, this was the scene at Scottsdale Stadium across town, a minor league baseball park that held the Penn State pep rally. Penn State fans already coming out in full force to support their Nittany Lions.
Yes, and Penn State fans, we know that they're loud and proud, but we know that they like to travel. And if all those guys that came out from the East Coast, we got to see them last year make the trip out west, so they love to come out for these big bowl games, that's for sure.
And we expect them to be loud and proud here in Glendale tomorrow for the kickoff. Of course, Penn State taking on Washington, and both sides have had plenty to say all week.
Of course, for both these teams, it's a big matchup with Pac-12 versus the Big Ten, and all the players are looking forward to what goes down here on Saturday.
Let's now hear from both sides as they get ready for tomorrow's matchup.
Our guys are motivated and excited. It's going to be a great game.
Who's going to break first? It's either me or you.
We'll have to play our best ball to compete well with these guys.
The whole media hype around it and all that type of stuff. There's going to be a lot of people watching.
We don't want to lose. We don't want to end the season off on an L. So we got to find a way to finish and execute and just find a way to come out on top.
And a lot has been made about the contrasting weather this week. Of course, it's gorgeous here. We know that's not the case back home in Pennsylvania.
Of course not. This team has been able to practice in the warm weather. We know that they're happy about that. But the fans have been excited, obviously, to leave back the cold weather, or leave that back in central PA. But for our sister station in Harrisburg, reporter Joel D. Smith, he somehow was able to find some snow in this desert landscape.
Jordan and Carrie, we are here at the Arizona Science Center where their hospitality knows no bounds. Look at this, man-made snow for these two cold weather teams. Yes, the weather a huge draw always to the Fiesta Bowl, but this time the temps are just the start.
I never expected to hop out the car and see a cactus that's way bigger than me, you know.
Although at Penn State you see like all those mountains, these mountains right here like rocky, you know, like dried out, looking just completely different.
This desert seems like paradise, the players and fans escaping the tundra back home.
It was in the 20s when we left, and it was in the 50s, almost 60 when we got here.
Everyone I know has snow right now, so we're just enjoying this beautiful sun.
The Fiesta Bowl organizers count on climate as a huge draw, and they were ecstatic to find out Penn State fans and all that history was coming back again.
There's a lot to experience, especially this time of the year. It's not too hot, not too cold.
The weather is definitely amazing. I mean, we had this one dude, we went to some restaurant, there's a dude talking about like snakes and scorpions. I'm not gonna lie, like the next 20 minutes after that conversation, I was like staring at the ground, like making sure there weren't any scorpions or snakes.
Yes, this is fun for now, but long term, these guys know how this experience will be remembered, either with another good win or maybe another slip up. Back to you.
And we mentioned Penn State has quite a history out here. It's been their most successful bowl game.
But Jordan, if we're going to argue about this, we all know that the biggest game of the Fiesta Bowl for Penn State was back in 1987 against Miami for that national title.
Yeah, won Penn State the national title January 1st, 1987. Who can forget it? An iconic game, still considered one of the greatest college football games of all time. Penn State, a heavy underdog, upset heavy favorite Miami 14-10 to claim the national championship. And I think Penn State fans watching that video, that kind of drums up some positive vibes maybe head into tomorrow's matchup. We have much more to get to coming up on our Penn State Bowl special return to the Valley of the Sun.
We talked about that history, Jordan, but a very legend coach came all the way from Central PA to make his mark here in Arizona. We'll have more on him coming up.
Also, you remember Curtis Enis, the great Penn State running back. We'll introduce you to Solomon Enis, his son, writing his own legacy out here in the shadow of the Fiesta Bowl. Our live coverage continues after this. You can't beat the views here in Arizona. This shot is live from the Camelback Inn in Scottsdale, which has served as the Fiesta Bowl headquarters all week long. Welcome back into our Penn State Bowl special. More with Kerry Osep in a bit. I'm Jordan Canigliaro, and you know, much of Penn State's recent success has been due to how well they've recruited, and they're trying to land a prize recruit who grew up right here in the shadow of the Fiesta Bowl. Penn State is back for another duel in the desert and up the road from where they'll play in their 7th Fiesta Bowl. We're at a high school basketball game. This one features one of the top athletes in Arizona, one who knows all about Penn State and the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, I've seen this too many times, so I want this back.
Solomon Enis has seen these clips too many times to count. His father, Curtis Enis, the former Penn State great running back, the MVP of the 1997 Fiesta Bowl.
With his braces and his big old head, I got the big head from him.
Enis has grown up outside Phoenix with his mom. He credits both his parents with passing down their athletic genes. And with his former football star father just a phone call away in New York, his own games have become a topic of discussion.
When I'm with my dad, he always talks smack to me, and then we'll be watching this stuff all the time.
Solomon Enis stars as a high school athlete just 20 minutes away from where his father starred in the Fiesta Bowl. He runs track, he plays basketball, but you guessed it. His best sport, just like his father, is football. And Solomon Enis could be a legacy Nittany Lion. Enis is a senior at North Canyon High School and one of the top wide receiver recruits in the country. He has just a few more weeks to make his college decision.
And we sat down and we talked, and he was like, this could be you. And then obviously he gave me a Penn State pitch in the beginning. I mean, if you do this each game, they're going to come knocking at your door.
The Penn State coaching staff has put on the full court press to land Enis. He's visited Happy Valley several times and at this point is considered likely to sign with the Nittany Lions. If he does, consider it another big win for Penn State at the Fiesta Bowl.
It's crazy how God just puts things in different positions, you know, just to see how things play out.
Thank you, Jordan. That was a great look at Solomon Enis. And I know a coach back here in Arizona who probably would have loved to recruit Enis back in the day, and that's Frank Kush. And to bring Penn State back into this, their first appearance in the Fiesta Bowl was against the Arizona State Sun Devils, led by Frank Kush, who we lost this past June. But this coach, he was able to leave a legacy, not only here in the Valley of the Sun, but back over 2,000 miles away from his humble beginnings in Windber, Pennsylvania.
You can't ask for any better than what he done coming out of a little town like this.
It was the stomping grounds here at the barber shop.
There's always 3 or 4 guys sitting in the chair. It didn't matter if they were going to get a haircut. But when Frank would come in town here, he would have made sure that he would come to this place.
To many, Frank Kush is a legendary football coach. To Paul and Steve, he was just another kid from their small mining town.
When we're always home.
Shaz's barbershop serving as a hot spot to many of those memories.
The gang pulled in here when Frank was in town. To us, he was number one.
We walked together, we played together, we done everything together because you didn't have too much to do other than play your sport.
Kush, a rather small lineman, played big.
You could not block him. He made 35 tackles a game, no sweat.
But his personality may have had the bigger impact.
Impressed you in such a manner and that you just loved the guy.
He was special to us.
A real specialty was discovered on the sidelines.
One tough son of a gun.
Frank Kush's football toughness was developed here in Windber, but this Rambler would trade in the colder climate for a coaching opportunity in the desert, where he'd begin to build a Sun Devil program, making sure to leave his legacy here at Arizona State.
He wanted to make the program the best program he could make it.
He'd spend the next 22 years leading the Sun Devils to prominence, compiling 176 wins with only one losing season.
Sun Devil Stadium, Frank Cush Field. They just don't hand those out to everybody. They don't hand out statues and put them in front of the stadium.
On their rise, Cush's Devils appeared in the first ever Fiesta Bowl and earned 4 more appearances. Their only loss coming from another coach who made his mark in central Pennsylvania.
Him and Joe were great friends. Similar coaching styles, kind of a no-nonsense, let's get in, get the work done, we're not going to be fancy about it.
Wherever Cush's coaching opportunities took him, he'd always remain rooted in Wimber.
It wasn't a week went by, he'd call and said, now what the hell's going on in the hometown?
Through memorabilia like this, Frank's spirit remains written on the walls and in the hearts of
many old friends.
Relationships still as timeless as Frank's words.
Thanks for all of your assistance and a special haircut.
Keeping a lifetime of stories and a fellow Rambler's legacy alive.
Everything about him was right, despite that he was a tough coach.
The chair Frank Cush once sat in for a cut and to share some laughs now simply shares memories of the man who never forgot what was home.
Someday maybe we run across him up there.
From Central PA out to Tempe, Arizona, and where I learned a lot about Frank Cush, Jordan, attending Arizona State University, I can tell you that Frank Cush is leaving his legacy wherever he went.
Certainly made his mark all across the country. Time now for a look at Penn State's opponent Saturday, the Washington Huskies.
And we're going to toss it back to Ryan Stanko in studio.
Hey guys, slightly warmer out your way to say the least, and things no doubt will be heating up inside University of Phoenix Stadium as we just get to sit back and watch these two powerhouse Power 5 teams battle it out. A little more about the Huskies. Fun fact, head coach Chris Peterson actually got his start at the University of Pittsburgh. That's right, he was a Panther quarterbacks coach in the early 90s, so a little bit of a local tie there. As head coach Peterson has a pretty good track record in Fiesta Bowls. He's 2-0 all time, and both wins came at his former place as a head coach. That was the Boise State Broncos program. College football fans, you might remember the 2006 upset win over Oklahoma as perhaps the greatest college football game ever played, but Peterson thinks the 2009 win over TCU was just as impressive, if not more.
But I might have been more proud about our second Fiesta Bowl here playing TCU, because I thought that was a really underrated team on both sides, our team and TCU. And you know, that was a defensive game, that was a hard-fought game, and we really had to play at a high level to get that done, and we did. And so everybody likes to talk about that first Fiesta Bowl, but as a coach, you know, I might have been more proud of our team winning the second one.
Jordan, Carey, something's got to give. Peterson undefeated in this game, and so are the Nittany Lions. A perfect 6-0 all-time in school history. We'll see how it plays out. Let's send it back to the Valley of the Sun.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Certainly had their work cut out for them on Saturday.
And we know maybe we'll see some trick plays from Coach Peterson yet again in this Fiesta Bowl. But first, as we come back, we're going to take a look at Penn State's highlights, their top plays of the year. And we'll have so much more coming up in our special Return to the Valley of the Sun. But here's a live look at some of the great desert climate that you see all around Arizona. That includes some palm trees and, of course, some cactus. We'll be back after the break.
A great live look this evening outside Phoenix, Arizona. Some of the scenes that Penn State fans are soaking up this week. Welcome back to our Penn State Bowl special. And Carey, it's been a long road for the Nittany Lions to get here.
Yes, Jordan, we know that this team was very successful early on, and then they endured some of those ups and downs with 2 straight back-to-back losses.
Yeah, but they were able to bounce back, cap off back-to-back 10-win seasons. A look now at some of the top highlights from this season. The 2017 season started with legitimate national title expectations, returning one of the best players in the country in Saquon Barkley. In the opener against Akron, it was the Nittany Lions special teams breaking through. Meanwhile, Barkley ended up with 2 touchdowns in a dominating 52-0 season-opening win.
Overall, I thought probably the most complete football game we've played since we've been here. Offense, defense, and special teams.
Against the Pitt Panthers. After a loss at Heinz Field the previous season, the Nittany Lions did everything in their power to convince over 109,000 they were the best team in the state. A 33-14 victory left little doubt.
Good luck the rest of the way. Stay healthy. Thank you.
Big Ten play opened with a road trip to Iowa's Kinnick Stadium, a place that has proved to be difficult over the years. Penn State was forced to mount a furious rally in the final minute, led by a highlight reel leap from Saquon Barkley. This Trace McSorley to Juwan Johnson touchdown pass as time expired was a season saver, keeping their record unblemished after a narrow 21-19 win. While the first half of the season allowed the Lions to pile up victories, the second half would prove to be much tougher. First up, a night game at Beaver Stadium against Michigan. It was their first true test of the season, but with a record whiteout crowd behind them, Penn State put on a show. Barkley's 69-yard touchdown set the tone for a 42-13 statement win over the Wolverines. The ultimate test came the following week as now number 2 Penn State invaded Columbus to take on Ohio State in a top 10 matchup with everything on the line. Barkley proved to be once again the best player on the field, opening the game with a kickoff return for a touchdown. While Penn State built an early 21-3 lead, they found it difficult to sustain. Ohio State quarterback J.T. Barrett played one of his finest games. Penn State could not hold on to an 11-point lead in the final 5 minutes, losing a heartbreaker for the ages, 39-38.
They just got momentum, and they got a bunch of players that can make plays in space, and you can't cover those type of athletes that long.
The narrow loss to Ohio State put a major dent in the Nittany Lions college football playoff hopes, and they had to continue to run the gauntlet the very next week in East Lansing. Penn State could never find its footing in a muddy game against Michigan State, and a 7-hour weather delay didn't help the visitors at all, losing on a last-second field goal, suffering their second straight loss.
Giving ourselves a position to win these football games, and ultimately we just have to be able to finish these games.
At 7-2, the Nittany Lions had to reset themselves, heading into a final 3-game stretch against teams at the bottom of the Big Ten. They got off to a slow start against Rutgers, but rebounded in a game where Trace McSorley set the program's all-time touchdown mark. The following week, they were back at Beaver Stadium for Senior Day, and it was an emotional one for a group of players that have led the program back to national prominence. Playing their final home game of the season, the Nittany Lions lit up the scoreboard. Just a junior, Saquon Barkley scored 3 times to pass Lydell Mitchell on Penn State's all-time touchdown list for a running back. A 56-44 victory was also significant for the program. It completed back-to-back undefeated seasons at home.
Becoming a boy and a teenager, and you leave a man, and that's a credit to all the coaches before us and Coach Franklin.
The final game of the 2017 season led the Lions to College Park, Maryland. It was a perfect November day for football, and instead of lamenting what might have been, James Franklin's team finished with an exclamation point. A 66-3 win clinched their status as a major bowl game contender. It also finished off back-to-back 10-win seasons, just the 3rd time the program has done it in the last 30 years.
Can't be stuck living in the past and worrying about what happened before and what could have been. I mean, none of that matters. Got to take it one day at a time.
I think the staff's getting better. I think the players are getting better. It's fun right now.
Some final thoughts on the big game coming up.
Return to the Valley of the Sun continues after this.
You remember what happened last year, though. You remember how that we lost the Rose Bowl game, how they lost in that playoff game, and you just that feeling you have in your stomach, or that taste you have in your stomach throughout the offseason, and you don't want to have that feeling.
Have an opportunity to win and go out on a high note for these seniors and for this team, this 2017 team. it's something that we really want to do.
I remember looking at guys, seniors last year, and just being in the locker room and just seeing the heartbreak in their face, the heartbreak and their emotions, and we don't want to leave that way.
Penn State will make sure to leave this season on a high note, Jordan, come Saturday.
Yeah, they're going to try to make it 7-0 here at the Fiesta Bowl tomorrow against the Washington Huskies. We can't wait. We thank you so much for joining us here for Return to the Valley of the Sun. We'll see you tomorrow here in the desert.